Nobody. I'm talking to nobody. Woo! I love it when I do that. We're going to try that again. See you guys in a sec. Ladies and gentlemen, today is November 26, 2013, and this is the KNKL show number 129. I'm your host, Keenan Lafferty, and today is Tutorial Tuesday, where we like to jump in, discuss our techniques. Technique, much like SpongeBob and his bubble blowing thing, whatever that's my favorite episode. I like it. We're going to bring it around town today with some Last of Us. We're going to be talking about the painting that I did here, the caricature of Ellie and Joel from the awesome franchise from Naughty Dog. But before we get into that, we need to take a stroll down the lovely lane. We've got some awesome new submissions coming in from these cool people. Thank you guys so much for sending in all this awesome stuff. I absolutely love this thing coming in from Blaze Malefica. Really cool name as well. I just like the style. Like I look at this and like it looks similar to my style, and maybe I'm inspiring you guys, but that like you guys just make the style look so cool. I love the freaking awesome perspective going on here, dynamic posing. Really good job, Blaze. And thank you to everyone who has submitted your awesome artwork to the Facebook page. For those of you who have not come out of your shells yet, please consider submitting. People on YouTube, you can click the link down below to go check it out. Submit your own stuff, and I'll feature you on the show. Alrighty, people, with all that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and jump into the time-lapse, because I have prepared that today. I love it when I time-lapse stuff. And we're going to be talking about, yes, exactly what went into making this caricature. And I kind of want to, I mean, I've done a show on caricatures before, and I'm sure, you know, I don't know if everybody's interested in caricatures, but then I took a step further, right? I took it a step further, and I was like, well, it's more than just caricaturing. There's like lighting, there's learning values with black and white, and painting faces. And I really believe that, you know, painting caricatures is more than just knowing the structure of a face and drawing a human face. It's almost like you have to know the details and all the stuff that goes into the structure of a human face before you can deform it. It's not like caricatures is just like that side thing for people that can't draw real people. It's actually a very interesting skill, one that I'm still learning myself, and I'm still not that good at it. But again, I'm excited to show you guys these things because we can learn together, and hopefully the way that I go about learning things, maybe you can apply this to yourself and realize that you might not get things perfectly the first time. But very quickly, if you stick to it, you'll notice there's improvement with each new piece that you do. So I decided to start with Ellie. Oh, and I want to show you guys the picture I was using for reference. This one right here. This is from the game. This is like a huge marketing thing. Everybody's seen this picture if you've played The Last of Us. So I was using this while I was looking at Ellie, and I was trying to figure out, okay, what exactly is some of Ellie's features, right? What are some of Ellie's most defining features? And you saw earlier in the time lapse right here how I was going through here, and I had these other faces. I was trying to figure out, oh, well, she's like a cute little girl, so let's kind of like scrunch her whole face down to the bottom of her head and make her have a giant forehead. But strangely, that wasn't giving me the face that looked like Ellie's. And I took another look at it, and I was like, oh, you know what? Well, just specifically because of this angle, I think that what's really cool about her face here is it just looks very long. Like she has a very, very oval, football-looking shape, right? Not a Hey Arnold like this. We got inverted Hey Arnold, vertical Hey Arnold going on there. So that was kind of the inspiration. I was just going to stretch her face out even more. She's got this little chin that sticks out, so I decided to do that. And I think one of the challenges that I absolutely enjoy drawing faces is, especially in caricatures, I like deforming the face and just like making her have like a huge nose, but still have her look cute, right? Because the original Ellie is very cute looking. So I was very interested with how I was going to do that. And I gave her like these big eyes and a big nose. Because I always like to exaggerate one thing, you know, I always like to make one thing bigger or whatever, you know, or super small, I don't know. But, so I just decided with the nose. I was like, okay, if there's anything on Ellie's face that could be exaggerated, it's probably just going to be this round nose, like this big round nose. And it's not big, but you know what I mean. Okay, so I created that, and you'll see I actually go in and I make some changes to it later on. But then I go ahead and I move over to Joel. And Joel is a lot easier because guys, I think, are just so much easier to mess around with on their faces. And I was drawing it from, again, this is my reference while I'm looking at it. But a couple of the challenges that I ran into while I was doing this was, I kind of like, I mean, I like the fact that I was using this for reference, but I was almost like, I want to make my own picture. I don't want people to just be like, oh, that's just like the marketing art, but then he just caricatured them. You know, I wanted to have a slightly different composition. And I think this kind of like goes back to that whole thing of where I tell you guys, explore other styles, you know, create pieces that you want to do, and you can copy stuff. You can straight up copy stuff. I mean, when I was learning, that was all I was doing. And basically that's what I'm doing here. I'm copying things and deforming them, right? But I really believe that when you want to pitch something as your own work or your own take on something, really try to change it up. Try a couple things, even if they don't work, you know? So basically I took that, you know, I was drawing these early Joel faces, and they were head on like the one that's in the marketing art, okay? And then I said, okay, well maybe I'll just change up the composition very slightly, and I'll just put him on the other side of her and have him facing the other direction. Same lighting scheme, and I'll probably keep it black and white, that way it's really easy to just paint and learn the values. And then it'll be my own composition. That way people will look at it and be like, oh hey, that's a cool, unique, new, fresh take on these two characters. And I'm sure they've probably done another picture with them kind of back to back. But regardless, I just changed it up a little bit. And I got to draw Joel from a different angle. And when I was doing this, I was actually looking up other pictures of Joel from the game and trying to figure out what are his facial features that make him distinctly Joel. So, one thing that you guys who have been watching the show for a little while will know is when I paint faces, when I paint people's faces, they always start out like this. I'm always painting in black and white and starting with values and like getting all of the details worked out in the black and white stage. And the reason why I do that is because I believe that there's just subtleties. There's subtleties that you're able to capture, and you're able to just work a lot more freely as an artist, right? That's what we all love as artists, freedom. You're able to work a lot more free when all you have to worry about is just one color, right? You're not just like, okay, I'm going to paint a face, and then I just let's like land some skin color, and let's like start shading it, and like molding it, like you're trying to paint and sculpt at the same time, worrying about transitions and hue shifts and subsurface scattering and all this crap. So you don't need to worry about any of that. First, just start painting faces in black and white, and then what I do is I darken the lines much like this, and I make sure that they're on their own layer. Like see right over here, see how these are all on their own layer? What I'll end up doing is I'll go in and then I'll paint the lines. I'll paint the lines to kind of help them to disappear a little bit, and then I'll paint over them. And I'll show you guys that. I'll show you guys that in the final painting. I'll show you the layers, kind of a little bit of a breakdown and some tips and tricks that I want to give to you guys when it comes to painting people's faces. And as much as it applies to caricatures, it applies even more to rendering a realistically proportioned face. So, so now you can see me going back and changing up Ellie, because I saw this face and I was like, well, it is cute, I do like it, but it's still not exactly what Ellie is here. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, well I made the nose bigger, and I'm noticing a common thing with caricatures that really helps me to kind of get it, is that if you make one thing bigger, the other things almost have to get smaller to make up for it. So I was like, okay, well in comparison, her nose is much bigger than her eyes. Her eyes are very small. So looking at this, I was like, okay, you know what I need to do? I think what I should do is just lasso. Again, this is another nice thing about working on its own layer, is I just lassoed those eyes and then I shrank them down. Super easy to do with a human face, and it's really handy. So you guys should definitely, you know, make use of the lasso tool when you're trying to position. Like I'll literally just lasso noses and I'll move them around. Like you can hit the little arrow keys to like nudge it around after you lasso it. Take the eyes, shrink them down. So immediately after I did this, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm liking this. This is feeling a little bit more. Like I just look at the face, and if it gives me that feeling that, oh, that's Ellie, then it's a win. It's a win! And like I said, Joel's super easy because he's the manly man, he's got the beard, he's got so many things that say distinctly that that's Joel. But with Ellie, again, I just think it's harder to caricature girls. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just challenged in the female category when it comes to doing caricatures. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna take that for what it is. So anyway, so I'm working out more of the details here, like the little strands of hair, all this stuff going in there. And again, working with just one color. Oh, and look at that. I even open up the liquify tool. This is another thing that I really like to do. I'll actually just open up the liquify tool, which I'll show you guys how to get to that really quick. For those of you working in Photoshop, let me move this down just a tad bit so you can actually see where it is. That's actually going to be in filter liquify. And what that does is when you select that, get that back up there. Okay, when you select that, it pulls up this really cool little interface. And basically what it allows you to do is kind of push and pull things. It's kind of like the lasso technique that I was showing you guys before, but it allows you to make even more minute adjustments. If you just want to like nudge a little piece of the nose, like it's almost like you can mold it around a little bit more. So I was doing that a little bit with her nose there. You can see I just made it a little bit smaller, pushed it out a little bit. Because her nose was still just a little bit too big. And it wasn't the same exact shape as the other one. Her nose in the game is very, very rounded, so I wanted to round it off a little bit. So, just adding in more details, all the details. Super easy and super fun to do, guys. I'm telling you, like, work with just one color. Work in black and white to study value, to study faces. It's so much more fun and free than having to figure out all the colors, make everything look right. And then after you do this, you can add color to it very easily. And if you guys want more information on that, go check out my tutorial. It's called Adding Color to a Grayscale Portrait. That'll help you guys out a lot more if you want to do something like this, then add color behind it. This is going to be mostly black and white, but there's still some good things that I can tell you about. So the next thing that I'm doing here, if you'll notice, is I'm going around all of the edges of this portrait, and I basically just like sharpened just the edges. I'm not worrying about the inside at all. I'm just going around, see like all these little things here, just take those away. All the little, I don't know, fragments, I forget what they call them. I totally forget what they call it, but just the little things that stick off the edge of the character. Just clean up the edges, and then what I do after that is you'll see I select everything. See the little marching ants around the characters? I select everything outside of the characters. Then I hit Shift-Control-I, which implodes the selection in upon itself. And then I'm creating something called a character mask. See, here's our lines. Here's our Joel and Ellie. Right behind it is our character mask. And once you implode the selection, then you fill that selection. What you're going to get is a really cool mask. And why did it do that? It looked like I filled everything outside of it. But what I actually did was I filled that mask with a white color, and then I dropped a dark background behind it. So basically you can see here's the lines. Our character mask is white, so it's kind of hard to see there. But basically what this allows you to do is it kind of like separates your character. Now your characters, think of it as like a cardboard cutout. Now you don't have to worry about painting the edges of in the painting, right? It's like you can work on the background as much as you want, and you don't have to worry about painting over your characters. And I'll have some more information on that in just a second when I show you guys the layers of the final piece. So right now what I'm going to start doing is, again, watch. You're going to watch me start. You're going to watch me. Watch me. That's great. You are going to watch myself paint a background. And see how I've got this big old brush. I'm just laying in, it's the cloud brush. I'm just laying in these colors right here. And I don't have to worry about painting over the characters because I've made this character mask. I've made the character mask and they're now brought out in front of it. And the lines are sitting on top of that character mask. Hope that makes sense. Not, maybe it will when I show you the actual PSD. Alright, but yes, I do love brushes. I used to be super against like custom brushes and texture brushes because I was like, no, you know what? No. I'm a purist. I only use the hard round brush. Right? I only use the default brushes that came with the crappy default brushes that came with Photoshop. Not knocking you if anybody does that still, but I realized very quickly after working in the industry that I realized why those brushes were invented, and that's because they save time. They really do. You can get the same effect by taking enough time on it, but really when you're on the spot and you got to get a project done, it's a godsend to have custom brushes. And for those of you who are interested in getting my brushes, speaking of that, you can click the little link down on YouTube. If you're watching the show, you probably have them already. Alright, so let's go ahead and get back to this. Really, really awesome custom brushes. Oh, and speaking of that, this entire painting, like all of my line work, was done with this chalk brush. See that thing right there? That's the chalk brush. I'm not using any, I don't even use a round brush to paint anymore because I love the texture and I love the, I like it when it looks like a human made it. You know, it's like you can see the brush strokes, you can see the stuff that went into it, the work, the hard work. And just in general, just makes things look cooler. So go ahead and try that out for yourself. But see, now what I'm doing here, guys, you see how I just shaded Joel's entire face here? See how it's all just white? Because it's the character mask is behind the lines, and there's a little bit of value in the lines. So with that just sitting on top of there, I can now color the character mask, right? What I've done right here is I've created a layer called values over top of the character mask, and I've clipped it back. which means that it can't go outside of the character mask. So it makes it really easy to go in there and just start shading the face behind the lines. And I don't have to worry about painting, you know what I'm saying? I'm not painting over top of everything. So if I make a mistake or whatever, it's really easy to just go back and paint it back. So see that? Look at that. I just darkened, basically I'm just darkening the mask that's behind, darkening the mask that's behind the lines. And that makes me so excited I can barely speak properly. But, as you can see, I'm doing the same thing on Ellie. And it just makes things so much easier, guys. I really want you guys to try this out for yourselves. Not the end-all be-all when it comes to technique, but this is what I do. It might help you guys out too if you're learning to paint faces. Or you just want a little bit more control. I think that's what it just gives me more control over what my painting is going to look like. Instead of trying to figure everything out. It's like, oh, I got these really nice lines in there. That face is captured. Now let's go in and let's add some more shading. Let's add some more details without destroying the original vision that we created. Okay, so going back to this. So now what I'm actually doing is I've gone into OP status, as you can see right over here in the layers. OP layer. This is when we finally go over top of everything that we've created. All of the lines, all of the character mask, basically over top of everything. Now we're adding in those extra details. This is where I really like to paint in lighting. I like to blend stuff. So it just gets a more, it's the finishing touches. It really is. And it's a really, when I get to this point, I can just put a movie on the other screen. I can just relax and just, you're just prettying everything up. You're cleaning it. Cleaning it for the company you're going to be having over and taking a look at your gallery on DeviantArt or what have you. You know, but it's a very interesting feeling in a way, because I don't know, like I personally don't enjoy rendering to like a perfect photorealistic looking painting, but I like rendering in a sense where it's just like kind of cleaning it up. I don't know exactly what it is. It's like I like rendering, but I don't like over rendering. Unless it's just, you know, pushing my limits, testing myself, you know, just trying to improve. I understand that. But, I don't know, you just got to do what you like. You got to do what you like. And I personally know when I've taken my painting to a point where it's like, it's not perfect. It's not everything is just like crisp and clean. You can't see one brush stroke in it. You know, it doesn't look like this, right? It looks like this, right? And I just like this style. I really, really do like this style a lot. So, okay, so what can I do for you guys today? Oh, looks like I do have the layers. Glorious, glorious me. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm actually going to drop this back here. We're going to close that down. And let's have a look. Let's have a look at everything that brought us to this point. A little bit of a recap, if you will. And in the meantime, I would ask that you prepare your questions because we've been going for about 20 minutes. And by the time we're done with this, I'll take your questions and then we'll end. Okay, so in the beginning, see here, here's some sketching that's going on with Joel. Just trying to figure out his face shape and all that stuff. This is another refinement. Did I want his nose to be lower or higher? But see how, I really want you guys to pay attention to how messy I am in the beginning. How messy and just crazy I am in the beginning. Not worrying about necessarily structure, just trying to pick out little things of emotion. Just trying to pick out those little things that you almost can't, you can't describe how to paint a face. You can't describe how to paint an emotion. You almost just have to let it flow naturally outside of you. And that's what I talk about, using the force of the artist. And that's another reason why I like working in black and white, because it's, again, you take so much of the pressure off of yourself and you allow that natural skill to flow out of you. And, you know, if it doesn't come out perfect, then you're learning quickly, okay? So, we eventually get to this point. This is basically what I'm talking about here. So, check it out. And I'll talk to you guys really quickly about a common pitfall that I want you guys to watch out for. Okay, so see how these lines are all on their own layer. In fact, let me move this up. See how it's right there? It's all on its own layer. So I can hit Control U, which brings up this little lightness slider, and then I can just adjust. I can literally just adjust them. Like I paint it like this, and then I adjust it down like that. And see how it just like retains all of the original values and everything, and it just darkens it. It makes it look nicer. Oh, and the reason why I paint with a light color is, again, it's easier on the eyes. Everything that you can do to just make yourself relax while you're in the creative state, it just, I don't know, it works really well for me. So you guys give it a shot. I don't know if it'll work as well for you, but what if it did? What if it did? Okay, common pitfall. Common pitfall I want you guys to avoid. is when I'm painting this, I'm painting and erasing. Okay, so if I want to bring some more light color into this, like more hairs, I'll paint it, right? Or sorry, I'll erase it out. Okay, like I want some more light on his forehead here. I'll erase it out. I'm not painting. Whatever you do not do this. Don't paint with gray. Don't paint gray back in, because watch this. See how I'm painting gray into his head here? You can't see it now, but watch what happens when we do that lightness trick this time. Because I've painted gray in and it's on its own layer, when I do this, oh no! He woke up late at the party, he passed out, and all his friends drew on his forehead. Ah, that's terrible. And that's what happens, because basically what it's doing is it's darkening what exists on that layer. And because that gray exists on that layer, it's going to darken that as well. And still leave the background, which normally would be erasing and seeing through. That's what's creating our lighter value. Okay, so whatever you do, the best way to make this work is when you paint in Grayscale, paint and erase. Paint and erase. You almost want to think about laying down the values and erasing away the light. And you will live long and prosper, and your faces won't look like that. Okay, so moving on. Once you have that all set up, then you can go ahead and you can begin. You can begin moving into the next parts here. Okay, so let's talk about, see, look, this is what it looks like. These are the values that are behind the lines. Isn't that interesting? Then you just lay the lines over top of it, and it works. It works, but let's talk about specifically the character mask. I want to talk to you guys about that. So this is exactly what's going on, guys. I have my characters here, all right? Without the lines, this is the character mask. This is what the character mask looks like. And you'll notice I've kind of erased the edges a little bit. And the reason why I've done that is because when you character mask the hair, like it looks a little bit weird to have that white kind of like clinging to the edges of the hair. So I kind of erase it a little bit. Give the hair a little bit of a see-through quality so you can see through to the back of the background. Okay? But basically speaking, what I'm doing when I create that is this. To create that character mask, I'll show you guys how I do it again. So look, you take the magic wand like this. See, you got your lines right here. Select everything around the characters. Then you hit Shift-Control-I to go within, meditate. Then you create a new layer called the character mask. Okay, let's go ahead and make it like orange so you can totally tell what happens here. And then when you fill that, see, look, now your characters, now I can drop the background behind the characters and it doesn't affect them. See, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so you have the character mask, right? Then you lay on top of that, again, the clipping masks. Basically what that means is, I've talked about this many times before, but you create a layer and then you Alt-click between it. You're going to get this, see how the icon changes when I hit Alt? When you do that, it basically says, okay, whatever you paint on this layer, I will not go outside of this character mask. It's very cool. It's like a stencil, if you will. So you lay down any additional values like this, right? Start to add a little bit more detail, a little bit more of the lighting scheme going on here. Like that, and then I added even more value, a lot of darkness to the clothes. And this could be, you know, it looks good, but also you want to think about in terms of values. Like naturally, your eyes will gravitate to wherever there is the highest amount of contrast on the picture. So without this, you know, there's a lot of contrast happening, you know, in the clothes, a lot of noise. It's kind of distracting. You know, you want to look at the characters' faces. So if you knock that back, you make those clothes darker so they kind of blend in with the background, it'll naturally make us look at the characters' faces. Bet you didn't know that. Or, yeah, you probably did. But, anyway, I like to act like I'm teaching you guys something. Moving on to the OP layer, the overpowered layer. This is where we finally go above and beyond everything that we've created before into the layers of overpainting. This is where I lay in, like, this is basically what you say goes. At this point, you can draw anything. You could draw a smiley happy face, right? You can do whatever you want on this layer, except for it's not letting me. I don't know why it's doing that. Why are you doing that? I have no idea what's going on with that. I think I locked it or something. Whatever. Anyway, it's still not working. Target channel is hidden. Okay. Anyway, regardless, in this layer, this is where I start laying in all of the final things, all the final details. You can see, basically, we're laying in rim light and all that stuff. Oh, now it's working. Jeez. We're laying in rim light, and this is something that I really want you guys to try out for yourselves. Rim lighting is really, really cool because it's a super simple way to just go back in and you just kind of like line the edges of the character with like white, right? Or whatever the color is. It can almost, I showed you guys the same thing in the ribbon Zack piece, and you guys can do kind of that same thing. But it's a really fun way to kind of pop your characters out from the background, you know, pop them out further from the background. It just gives it another sense of depth. It gives you another feeling of that this character is round, right? They're existing in space. And rim lighting is really cool. So you can see it happening here, you can see it happening there, and basically it's just like lining the edge of the character. That's all it is. That's all it is. Pretty dang simple. Pretty dang simple. Stuff like that. So try that out for yourself. See if you like it. And then the last thing that I did was I think I made Ellie. I ended up making Ellie's head a little bit bigger. And this is the last thing that I want to end on today, guys. Is whenever you finish a painting that you've been working on for a few hours, or just any piece of work, it's really good that you guys, before you release it, or before you're ready to, you know, say it's a job, or say you're just making something for your webpage, it's a really good idea that you guys sit on it. Sit on it for just a day. Go to sleep, relax, you know, sleep, wake up the next morning, then take a look at it. You'll have slightly fresher eyes. And then when you look at it with those fresh eyes again, you'll be able to see just like the little things that you could do to fix it before you're finally ready to let it go, release it into the wild. And for me, one of the biggest things that I noticed was I felt like Joel's head was like massive and huge, and then Ellie's was almost like borderline, like it was more of a realistic proportioning. So I decided to bring a little bit more consistency into the picture. I wanted to make Ellie's head also much bigger. So I just went in and I lassoed it, made it bigger, kind of cleaned up the edges. So you couldn't tell, right? Erase the evidence, get rid of the evidence. And I just made her head bigger, and I was like, that's it, that's good. And then I released it, and I was very happy with it. So I hope that was a very informative daily for you guys. Any questions that you have, please ask them over in the chat if you guys have not already. Just checking over here really quick. Yes. Okay. Yes, any questions that you guys have, I will answer them. Until then, I'll just talk to you guys a little bit about a couple things that help me out when thinking about faces. This was another thing I wanted to tell you guys about. Sort of bonus. This is a really good thing I want you guys to pay attention to. Okay, so the thing I want to talk to you guys about with faces is something that really helps me to understand the depth and the planes of the face. A lot of guys, I've done some dailies on this before, but I feel like it just needs to be said again. It needs to be said again because it's really important. Okay, so anyway, so something that really helps me out is just to understand how the mouth works. And you can look at your own face. Like, notice how the light is being caught, like right here. See how it kind of like goes in right there, and there's a little bit of light being caught right there. I really think that when you're painting faces, catching stuff like that, like just that little slight shadow that's happening right there, that's really what makes the difference between something that looks just okay and then something that really starts to cross that line into, ooh, wow, like this looks very pleasing, this looks very relatable, this looks like a face. And I really think about like this whole muzzle area, right? Something kind of like this. It almost like has a depth to itself. It almost like sticks off of itself. You know, now she looks like Hannibal or something. But I really think the major challenge in drawing faces is capturing depth and just figuring out how things work. Like, it's like, how does this nose come down here? Like, how do we show the curvature of that nose and then meeting the cheek? You know, and these are all things that, again, I'm still studying myself. I don't claim to be a master at it yet, but I really wanted to kind of drive that point home with just this muzzle that like sticks off of your face. Like, think about the mouth as just like the lips and everything. There's flesh there. It has weight to it. It has depth to it. So make sure you guys are showing that. Same thing over here, like a good illustration. See that same muzzle sticking off of his face. Let's make you into Hannibal Lecter as well. And the nose comes down like that. And again, all that stuff will come into play and come into You'll basically learn as you go. But I hope that that will help you guys out. Consider the mouth, consider the muzzle, consider the Hannibal Lecter. And while I'm answering these questions, I need to inconspicuously pull up epic outro music. Okay. Sir Knight is asking, who's your favorite Pokemon? Oh man, I've not seen Pokemon in a long time, but I always really liked Bulbasaur. I really like Bulbasaur. Just because he's got that plant on his back. It's really cool. Like, he can whip people with it. Whip them into shape. Okay. Last question I'm going to take is from Stained Cleaver. Oh, and by the way, guys, if there are not... I forgot to pull up the question log. In fact, I actually think that I have a good question for today. In the meantime, I'll answer this from Stained Cleaver, and then I'll answer a question that I got yesterday that I was not able to get to. Stained Cleaver is asking, any advice on how to show the difference between wet hair and the opposite, while having it still look like it belongs to the same character? Yes, this is a good question, Stained Cleaver. Yeah, let me help you out with that. Okay, so the difference between showing dry hair and wet hair is really just a difference in texture. Okay, let's go ahead and lose the Hannibal masks. And basically, what I want you to notice right here with this hair is, see how there's a little bit of a smooth gradient with the shine? If you wanted to make this hair look wet, I mean, their hair is already kind of greasy anyway because they're kind of running around and they're probably pretty dirty. But to make hair look wet, it depends on what kind of light is shining on it. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to make the highlight that runs through the hair very, very small, because the light is going to compress and it's going to create like this very slick highlight that goes right through the hair. Something kind of like that, right? And then you're also going to pick up a lot more reflected light as well when the hair is wet. So you might get something a little bit more along the lines of that. I don't know, try that out. That's usually what I like to do when I'm drawing wet surfaces or just wet textures. Just make the highlight very, very small. Very, very small. In fact, I think that might be a little bit too much. But you get what I'm saying. All right, last question I'm going to take today is from yesterday. I did not have a chance to get to. Let's see. I will take... Let's see. Oh, this one actually came in from Navahawk, so I'm going to take this one. He's asking, Keenan, if you ever hurt your writing hand, what do you do? Or your drawing hand in this case. And this is something that I'm constantly battling with. Just working too much to the point where my hand begins to hurt. This is something that you'll notice will happen when you start working every day, right? You're drawing every day, you're just working with your hands every day. You start to hurt a little bit, especially when you hold the pen. I hold the pen like really weird. I hold it like this. This is probably not the best, like it's just, it looks like a place, like this is how my hand is going to be when I'm freaking 80 years old. It's just going to be like frozen in that position. But anyway, whenever I think the best way to deal with hurting joints or just avoiding injury is to just prevent it in the first place. And the way that you do that is by taking proper breaks. I talked to you guys about this before. The 26-34 rule. I work for 26 minutes. I don't always do this, but I should be doing this every time. Man, I was good on this like last week. Like every day it was just like 26-34. Work for 26 minutes and then I rest for 34 minutes. I actually work less than I rest. And it's very interesting. I get more stuff done and my quality of work is just so much better than it used to be. And I don't know how it works, but I really think the way that it works is you're working for 26 minutes, you were just on. And in the 34 minutes where you're supposedly resting, you know, you're up, you're washing some dishes, you're cleaning your room, you're writing down ideas maybe for something else that you had. Like, you just get inspiration during those times. And here's the really cool part. I think this is where you start to save a lot of time. When you're resting for the rest of the 34 minutes, you're going to look at whatever you're working on, and you're going to be able to start picking out things that you would have normally done that would have just been kind of like busy work. Or things that you would have spent a lot of time on, but then wouldn't have made that big of a difference in the end. You save time by taking a step back and looking at what it is that you're really trying to accomplish. You realign, you cut away the fat, you cut away the crap that you would have done anyway, you know, that would have wasted a bunch of time, probably caused a lot more stress and anxiety and anger, and then you just jump back into it and you're perfectly fine. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and end episode 129 of the KNKL Show. Thank you for joining me live on Twitch. People on YouTube, thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. My name is Keenan Lafferty. I'll see you guys tomorrow for whatever Wednesday. I think we're going to be working on what we were working on Monday, the Emma holiday greeting card. Till then, you guys take care. See ya.